What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined this morning by Blake Williams, Daniel Starkand, here to have a fascinating conversation about the Dodgers bullpen and who might be in, who might be out come October. Will Clayton Kershaw make the postseason roster? Who's trending towards being healthy? Is there a Bobby Miller conversation we need to have? Lots to get into, but guys, let's start with just big picture before we get into specifics. I want to do a vibe check on the Dodgers bullpen right now. Blake, I'll start with you. How are we feeling about both the current and future state of this group?
Current group, not too happy with it, although I think they've been a little underrated. Since like the last month or so, they've been pretty good overall, but then there's been some high leverage situations where they just haven't had anyone to come in and get the job done there. So it hasn't been great. But overall, in the long term, I think I'm pretty confident in the group.
Daniel, where are you at? I mean, to Blake's point, they're 11th in ERA over the last 30 days. They were 24th in the league the 30 days prior to that. So how are you feeling about things?
Yeah, I feel pretty similarly. Like if the current bullpen was the one they were going into the playoffs with, I wouldn't feel that great, even though the numbers you just laid out aren't bad by any means. But I do think they have enough guys coming back, and we'll get into all that, where if they get 2 or 3 guys back, you start to feel pretty good. If they get 4 or 5 guys back, you feel great. So we'll see. We might have this conversation again right before the playoffs start, and our list might be totally different than they are right now. Obviously it depends on health, and with relievers, one guy might be the best reliever in the league, and then he has 3 bad outings in a row, and everyone wants him DFA'd. So a lot can change when it comes to relievers. But yeah, I do think there's the possibility for a really good playoff bullpen here.
Looking at the numbers whole season, you could frame this a couple different ways. If you want to be the overly optimistic and lie a little bit, you could say, hey, look, the Dodgers bullpen is 5th in wins above replacement this season in all of Major League Baseball. And then in fine print, it would say they've thrown 25 more innings than any other bullpen in the league. That would be disingenuous. They're 21st overall in ERA, although some of the underlying stuff, FIP and XFIP, have them closer to middle of the pack on the whole. They are 7th in strikeout rate, 12th in walk rate. The interesting question, and the one we're ultimately going to talk about today, is how this group looks moving forward. Dave Roberts was asked about whether last year's postseason run makes him feel better about this bullpen, given, as you both pointed out, and I would agree, the current state is not exactly inspiring confidence. Here's what Dave said when asked if last year's run gives him confidence this group is going to improve. He said, it does. Blake is finding his way. Not our Blake Trinan. Michael Kopech back for a month, getting Kirby healthy and acknowledging he has pitched in big ball games. Alex has pitched in a lot of high leverage frames for us, as has Anthony. So I do feel that because of the track record, and it speaks to the offense too, as the games start to get a little bit more high intensity, the focus ramps up a little bit more. That's just natural. Blake, what are your thoughts on that quote from Dave?
I kind of agree with him. I mean, I think they have a lot of talent in the bullpen, and it's been a little shaky at points this year, but I still believe in the talent of the group they have. I know at least I've always talked about how you can't really trust any relievers, and we're kind of seeing that play out, but still, they just have so many options. I think they can figure out a combo that works moving forward and kind of get back on track and stabilize the bullpen a bit more.
Yeah, and Daniel, we're going to get specific here in just a second. My view on this Dodgers team as a whole, I am not discounting the fact that they're a 500 baseball team over the last 20 days, 20 games or something like that. And yet my view on the whole has been every decision this team has made has been with October and November in mind. The NLDS, NLCS, World Series, maybe the wild card at this point, but every decision has been made with that in mind. And I think the bullpen is similar because we're about to talk about 6 or 7 guys that either aren't good or aren't healthy right now, but it feels like the postseason success is going to depend on how many of those guys get right. So do you think the Dodgers have maybe been more conservative with some of these guys in order to preserve long-term health, and that might have hurt them in the short term?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of these guys are on the wrong side of 30, let's call it. Yeah. And when it comes to relievers, you have to be careful with those guys. We've seen how many Dodgers, have gone down. I think, though, the first thing that we should acknowledge is where the starting rotation is currently at, because you mentioned a couple minutes ago how the Dodgers are leading the league in bullpen innings. But as things currently stand, that shouldn't be the case, moving forward.
Yeah.
Like, the starting rotation is in the best spot it's been all year. And obviously we hope, that those guys could stay healthy. And if they do, I don't think, like, going back to your quote about last year, like, I don't think the Dodgers are going to need to rely on their bullpen this postseason as much as they did last year. So yeah, that bullpen last year was awesome, and they're probably not going to be good this year, as good this year, given all the question marks. But we also have to acknowledge that the starting rotation is in a much better spot. So with that being the case, the bullpen isn't going to need to be Superman and have a bullpen game every 3 games and come to the rescue every time. So with that being the case, that does give me a little more confidence.
All right, let's get into the exercise. We're recording this on August 12th, and the exercise was very simple. As of today, who is in your bullpen come the postseason? Now, there's one assumption that I told Blake and Daniel, one piece of instructions that I gave them as far as how to execute this, which is, let's assume, and we all know we shouldn't assume this, okay? But for the sake of doing this in a way that makes sense, we assume that the 4 starting pitchers, Glasnow, Snell, Yamamoto, and Ohtani, that those 4 guys are going to be at least part, someone might argue they go to a 5-man rotation, but at least part of the postseason roster and rotation. So if those 4 guys are healthy, how would you build the bullpen around them? And that's the only assumption. All these other guys who are hurt or not good, I said, Blake, Daniel, it is entirely up to you to decide if Grderall is going to be back or Kopech is going to be back or Yates is going to be good, whatever. Those are up to you. So I created kind of 5 categories, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to throw these up here. 6 categories. I've got guys who are locks, guys I'm confident are going to make it, guys who just eked in, guys who just missed out, guys who aren't even on the radar, and guys who are injured. And we'll work through these one by one, and I'll give my list on here and then allow these 2 guys to react. And I'll say this. I think there's 14 guys who could be on the postseason roster, and it wouldn't shock me. There's another 5 who are on my crazier things have happened than someone like this makes the Dodgers postseason roster. I've got 4 non-factors and 5 non-factors and 5 injured pitchers as well. So let's start with the injuries. The 5 guys that are not going to be on this roster because of injuries: Tony Gonsolin, Michael Grove, Evan Phillips, River Ryan, and Gavin Stone. The only guy I think somebody could quibble with is Gonsolin, who has not technically been ruled out for the year at this point, but Blake, I'll start with you. Is there anybody on this list that you want to quibble with?
No, Gonsolin hasn't even picked up a baseball, and the other guys have been ruled out already. So, yeah, no.
Daniel, same boat?
Same boat. Even if Gonsolin finds a way to miraculously become healthy, I don't see where he would fit into the picture.
Totally. And look, he was technically available last year and was off of the roster as well. So, okay, next group for me are the off-the-radar guys. Total non-factors, with all due respect to them and their families. Will Klein, Landon Knack, Nick Frasso, Julian Fernandez. I have Paul Gervais on this list as well. These are guys that, like, they aren't even on my crazier things have happened list. This would be utterly shocking to me. Daniel, I'll start with you. Is there anybody on this list that was even meriting slight consideration from you?
I'm sure Blake had Will Klein in the locks category for his. But for me, yeah, I didn't really consider any of these guys.
And Blake, I was working to build consensus. So you guys might have had more people completely off your radar than I've listed here. But did any of these 5 that I mentioned get serious consideration from you?
Serious consideration, no. But I totally wouldn't be shocked if Paul Gervais gets a shot and ends up sneaking on late in the season. But as of right now, no, he's not a consideration.
Hasn't pitched at the major league level since coming over. Had been okay for the Rays. Obviously, there's some underlying stuff, reasons to like him long-term, but that's why I had him in that list. So let's move now to the opposite side. I'm going to start with my locks, and this is where some real serious disagreements are going to come. I've got 4 guys on my lock list. Tanner Scott, Blake Trinan, Alex Vesia, and Brock Stewart are my 4 locks on here. I think this is where we're going to have some consensus, and we're going to have some disagreement of these 4 guys, whether they belong in this category or the next. Blake, I'll start with you. Let me ask it this way. Are any of these 4 guys not in your first 2 categories? Like, are any of these 4 guys in your mind at risk of not making this roster?
No, I have them all in the lock category, and there's some that you didn't list in the lock category that I also had. So that's where my disagreement's going to come in.
Okay, Daniel, what about you? Did any of these four guys have a chance of being on the outside looking in for you?
The only one for me was Trinan, just because A, you don't know if the guy's going to be healthy, and B, he hasn't looked great, but it's only been a few outings, and obviously we know how important Blake Trinan has been in past postseason bullpens for this team. So he's very close to a lock for me, but I couldn't put him all the way in that category just because he hasn't looked great, and we kind of got to see it. But he's super close.
Okay, let's run through these four really quick. Tanner Scott, left elbow inflammation, has been on the injured list since July 22nd. He is expected, as we record this, to face hitters next week for the first time. Had dominant stretches, had miserable stretches. I think we all agree there's not a world where, if healthy, and he seems to be trending towards health, that he wouldn't be in this group. Next up for me is Trinan, who you mentioned, Daniel. And Blake, I'm going to ask your thoughts here in a second. He's made 5 appearances since missing 3.5 months, has been rusty. 8 hits and 4 walks in 3 2/3. The optimistic thing for me is he has 7 strikeouts. It feels like, and we're going to talk Kirby Yates later, it feels like this is a guy whose stuff is still there and is still nasty. He just has no command and control, which I think you could justify with 3.5 months off. So, Blake, where are you at on Trinan and how confident you are he's going to be a guy you trust come October?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is this stuff is still there, and it's just been a command issue. So I'm not too worried about him at this moment. I think for him to fall out of the lock category, he'd have to be really bad, like for another month and a half kind of thing. So I think they're going to give him every chance to figure it out, and I'm pretty confident he's not going to be hanging sliders over the middle of the plate every time he goes out there anymore. So yeah, I'm pretty confident he'll make it.
Vesia, we just need to keep away from day games, and I think we'll be fine. That guy needs dark outside. He needs lights, and he needs more hours in the day to be drinking Red Bull. And then I think there's going to be some people, Daniel, who are surprised that Brock Stewart is this high on my list because he has not been awesome since coming over to the Dodgers. But all the underlying stuff on him is good. The overlying numbers are also good. 2.6 ERA, 10.5 K per 9. Yes, I know lefties kill him, and I mean kill him. 340 batting average, 960 OPS. But I just feel like the Dodgers are going to be able to find ways to deploy him primarily against righties, against dangerous righties, because this season, Daniel, a right-handed hitter against Brock Stewart is 3 times more likely to strike out as they are to get a hit against him, which from a pitcher is pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's the key with Brock. He dominates righties, which is what this bullpen really needs. Like we're going to go through it, but almost half these guys are lefties, and a lot of the righties, are either not healthy or you don't have a ton of confidence in. So yeah, Evan Phillips has kind of been that guy in the past. Like, let's go in there and just get out their 3 best righties, whenever that section of the order comes up. And I think that's going to be Brock's role here. I agree with you. Like, the underlying stuff looks good, so I'm not overly concerned.
All right, Blake, let's go to you. You've got more people than these 4 in your lock category. So who else do you have in this group?
I also had Jack Dreyer in there because I think he's been their best reliever pretty much all year, maybe up there with Alex Vesia. You could probably flip a coin on them. And then Michael Kopech, I think he's trending toward health. If he's healthy, he's going to be on there pretty much no matter what. So those are the 6 guys I had there as my locks, and I think they're all pretty safe bets.
Okay, so I'm going to go to my next. I have Dreyer and Kasparius in my confident group. And we'll get to Kopech. He's in my just-in group. Spoiler alert. But let's talk Dreyer. And let's talk this out because I'm open to the idea, Blake and Daniel, of moving him into the lock category. I'll tell you why he's in confident and not lock. And it's simply because of workload. He has thrown 58.1 innings this season. That's a career high. He threw 57 last year. He threw 54 in 2023. And then 12 in 2022. He missed all of 2021, 21 in 2020, and then just 7 in 2019. So he has never even come close to the number of innings that he's probably going to get to if he continues to pitch this season and into the postseason. His last 7 appearances, 6 innings, 6 hits, 2 home runs, and just 3 strikeouts. Small sample size. I love Jack Dreyer. I've been on this train since day one, but that's, to me, Blake, the concern. So what would you say to sort of ease anybody that is thinking the things that I might be thinking? And again, I'm not worried about Dreyer. I have just moved him down from the lock category to the confident category.
I mean, they've just relied on him all year as one of their leverage guys pretty much since he started proving himself early in the season. So I just don't see any way like they leave off one of quote their guy kind of things. I mean, if he starts regressing for another few weeks and a month, then maybe you kind of have that conversation. But until he shows serious concerns, I just don't think you can leave him off that lock category.
Daniel, where are you at on Dreyer and confidence kind of over the next couple of months?
Yeah, I agree with what Blake just said, and I would also add that, like, you know, I think given the workload concerns, you could probably ease up on him for the next month and a half. Like, you know, considering you have healthy starters now, the rosters are going to expand, so you get an extra arm or two in September. That way, you could kind of not use him quite as much. So hopefully he stays fresh, because I do think for a young guy, the workload is a legit concern, but I don't think we're there yet with Dreyer.
Okay, Daniel, where are you at with Kasperius? He's the second guy in my confident category, and this is a hard one because the first 39 innings of the season, 2.5 ERA with a 1.72 FIP. Then he got murdered as a starter and bulk guy and kind of lost it. His last 6 appearances, 5 1/3, 5 hits, just 1 run, no walks, 3 strikeouts for Kasperius. I am obviously projecting him to get his mojo back and settle in now that his role is more established. But what category did you have him in?
I have him off the roster right now.
Wow.
So this is probably the biggest difference for me and you. And I put in parentheses, needs to turn it around, kind of what you just said. Like, he was great to start the year, and then they were messing with his role, becoming a starter, long man, whatever the case may be. Things didn't exactly go great. So now it's very possible he could work his way back onto this roster. I do think his role is now a little more set in stone. But I do think if he's going to be a high leverage reliever type, he's going to have to strike out a bunch of dudes, which he hasn't been doing. And he's going to have to not walk guys, which has been an issue as well. So I think the talent is there. Obviously, if we're getting the guy that started the season, he'd be in the lock category. Like, this wouldn't even be a discussion. But I do think, you know, similar to Dreyer, workload could be a concern. Role could, you know, the way they've messed with his role could have played a part. But as of now, I have him on the outside looking in. But that could obviously change over the next month and a half.
Okay, Blake, I know we haven't gotten a Kopech, who is in your lock category alongside Dreyer, but where are you at on Kasperius? Are you closer to where I'm at in the confident category, or closer to where Daniel is and maybe just on the outside looking in?
I had him in my confident category, and it's mainly because I think the stuff is still really good, and Dave has still been relying on him in high leverage moments at times, even after the struggles. So I don't think he's really lost too much of his standing there. My spoiler, I didn't really have any other like multi-inning relievers, so I feel like he's a guy they see. We could use him in high leverage, or we could have him go out there and eat some innings if we need to. So I think he's pretty safe on the roster at this moment.
All right, so let's get to my just in category, because this is where things are going to get fun and spicy potentially. I've got Kopech at the top of my just in category. The update on Kopech, by the way, is right knee surgery of some sort on July 1st, injured list on July 1st, excuse me. He faced hitters yesterday for the very first time on Monday. He could do it one more time before going out on a rehab assignment. So this is a human being that we have seen pitch against hitters, and therefore we're projecting slightly less when it comes to health. Daniel, where did you have Kopech? Again, Blake has him as a lock. I have him in, but in the just-in category. Where's he at for you?
I had him pretty much at the top of my confident list, and I'd probably lean more towards Blake than you. Like, if the guy's healthy, I think he's pretty much a lock. We know how much upside he has. You know, we know how electric the stuff is, and we know that's kind of what you're looking for in October. And, you know, having a righty that throws 100 and strikes guys out is kind of exactly what this bullpen needs. So I think with Kopech, it's just a case of health. And if he could show he's healthy, he'll be in there.
Blake, talk to me about Kopech and why you're so confident that he's in your lock category.
I mean, if he's healthy, he's one of their best, probably 3 relievers in the group. So I'd be pretty shocked if he's not on there as long as he's healthy. And when I made my projections, I just assumed health for everyone, because I'm not going to really get into all the predicting who's going to be hurt and who's not, because there's just no logic in that really in my mind. To clarify, I did leave Grderall off, but that's because I don't think he's going to come back, as opposed to like more he's going to come back and then get hurt kind of thing again. So that's just where I'm at. Like, I'm assuming Kopech's going to be healthy and he's going to be a big member of the bullpen.
And,
All right.
and
So,
sorry, Jeff, just to add on to that, I will say with Kopech, it's a knee injury. Like we're not talking about an elbow, a shoulder. Like that gives you a little more confidence that the guy could get healthy.
So as we sit here, there's 7 guys that I think I should say there's 6 guys that we all agree on. It's Scott, Treinen, Vesia, Stewart, Dreyer, and Kopech in some order. Blake and I have Kasperius in. Daniel has Kasperius on the outside looking in. So we've got 6 that are either locks or confident. Because I'm looking at this, I'm fine moving Dreyer to the lock category, and I'm fine moving Kopech into my confident category. And I think that brings some consensus among the 3 of us, which then gets us to the last 4 spots, or in Blake's cases, he's going to share 3 spots in his bullpen and where those fall. So my last 4, I've got Kasperius, I have Emmett Sheehan, I have Brusdar Grderall, and I have Clayton Kershaw. Daniel, I'll start with you. Sheehan, Grderall, Kershaw, which of those jumps off the page the most at you as far as a guy that I have in on this roster?
As far as that belongs in, or someone that I would have
like,
out?
Who are you surprised made that list between Sheehan, Grderall, and Kershaw? Did any of those guys surprise you?
Not really surprised. I will say the one difference I had was I have Grderall out right now.
Okay.
Similar reasons as Blake. Like we've seen the guy pitch like 2 innings in the last like 2 years. Like we know how talented he is, but he's kind of in the category of like, I'll believe it when I see it. So if he comes back in a couple weeks and is throwing hard like he used to, then I'll give it some serious consideration. But I know we said we're kind of assuming everyone's healthy here, but I think Grderall is kind of the one guy out of all these guys that you can't exactly assume he's going to be healthy just because we haven't really seen him.
Yeah, and that's where I leave it up to you guys to say, do you believe? Like for Grderall, he had labrum surgery last November. He's been throwing in Arizona. Fabian Ardaya tweeted this out yesterday. The plan for Grderall has been to ramp him up here soon, but like with everything, it all gets real once he's facing hitters. The Dodgers have already also said they're comfortable with the short ramp-up period for him in October if necessary. So to me, it's just like I see the upside if Grderall is available, and I actually believe them that it's like, hey, if you can throw in 2 regular season games before the playoffs start, then we're going to feel good and trust you. Now, I think what I'm hearing from you, Blake, is not like you just don't believe he's going to get to the 2 regular season games before the playoffs, right?
Yeah, kind of. Like the last update we had before that was Dave said he has like no clue about Grderall, so like I just want to see it until I actually put him on over some of these other guys because I think there is a competitive group of options they have. If he's healthy, he's going to be on my list. I don't really see him being healthy until it actually happens, kind of thing.
Okay, next let's go Emmett Sheehan. 3 ERA in 30 innings so far this season. He's a guy that I think the stuff plays up if he moves into the bullpen a la Ben Kasperius. He's been the upper third of the league when it comes to whiff rate, strikeout rate, hard hit rate, barrel rate, and expected ERA. Daniel, I'll come to you first because Blake has already hinted. Is Sheehan on your roster?
Yeah. And okay. He was, I'm not putting him in the lock, but he was definitely in the confident. And I think his versatility could prove to be a big weapon in October. Like whether you need someone to give you innings, a long man type, he could do that. If you need a high leverage guy, I think his stuff would really play up. He could get a lot of swing and miss as a high leverage guy. So yeah, I think Sheehan could be a really dangerous weapon in October.
Okay, Blake, let's pause here. You decided to go 9 pitchers. So just as a refresher, you get 13 pitchers on a postseason roster maximum. You cannot go more than that. You can have as many position players as you want. Because the Dodgers have Ohtani, he does not count as a starting pitcher, or a pitcher at all. So if you have a 4-man rotation that includes Ohtani, you can have 10 bullpen arms. You indicated that for this exercise, you were only going to choose 9 pitchers and to carry a 14th position player. So talk us through that decision, and then you can just transition to where you think Sheehan fits in.
Yeah, so for a 5-game series with the off days and all that built in, I don't think you actually need 10 relievers, and I don't know where the value in that lies. I think they're going to end up carrying an extra bench guy as like a pinch runner or defensive replacement, which gives you a bench of rushing, Rojas, Cole, Kim, and then Kike if he's healthy, and if not, then probably Dean as a pinch runner. I just think there's more value in having a pinch runner than a 10th reliever. If they get to the CS and World Series, maybe that changes with the 7-game series and they want the extra pitcher. But for a 5-game series with off days, I just don't see a need for 10 relievers.
Okay, would Sheehan have been 10th on your list had you been able to take a 10th?
Probably. might have been a toss-up between him and Robleski. I think
Yeah.
Robleski has pitched a little better, and I think my concern with Sheehan is he's coming off the injury, and the Dodgers tend to be really cautious with him. I don't think they necessarily will want to put him in like a high leverage role where he's going to have to pitch maybe back-to-back days or 2 or 3 times in a series. I think they are going to be a little more safe with him and try and keep him on maybe more of a normal starting schedule. So I have him in my taxi squad as like the next man up for the rotation, or maybe the 6th man in the rotation, or a long reliever if they end up needing that. But I just don't really see them wanting to use him in a high leverage role. And throughout July, he was fine, but not like great. His ERA was around 4 in the month. So like he's good. I just don't really see them pushing him, especially if he's kind of a toss up between 2 other guys or something.
Okay, I'm going to go to my just out, and we're going to circle back to Kershaw. Just off this list, I have Robleski, Anthony Bonda, Kirby Yates, Roki Sasaki, Bobby Miller. There's a few other guys that Edgardo Enriquez, Kyle Hurt, Alexis Diaz were the other 3, not pictured here. Sorry, the table wasn't big enough for you 3. Somewhere they were halfway between just out and off the radar. So congrats on not being off the radar entirely. Let's do the Kershaw thing, Blake, because I know you and I have massive disagreements about this. So just if people are looking at my list, you have Sheehan off, you have Grderall off, you have Kershaw off, you have Bonda in, and you have Kirby Yates in. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do the Kershaw thing first. You sent me a list of 17 guys, and Kershaw was not even on your top 17. So talk me through, given the regular season that he has had so far as a starter, obviously, why he is off your list entirely.
Well, I'm doing this for the DS, and then things change going into it. I just don't see them putting him on the DS roster. I think it'll be something like they say, go to Arizona and keep your arm worked out and stretched out, and then we'll add you to the CS and you'll be our 5th starting pitcher, so they don't have to use anyone on short rest or anything. I just don't see any upside on him in the bullpen. Like, if you're telling me you could have Bonda or Kershaw coming out of the bullpen, I think Bonda's the very easy choice there, and Kershaw's been a good starter. I just think their plan is going to be more like stay ready as a starting pitcher in case there's an injury, or if we want to add you to the CS or World Series roster as our 5th starter.
Daniel, I've talked about Kershaw, and I probably one thing I could have talked amongst the 3 of us is whether we're planning for the DS or the CS. We never made that clear, so there's slight differences in that approach. But I think Kershaw, I have him as the souped up Brent Honeywell role, which is just inning eater if games get out of hand one way or the other to preserve arms, either in the rotation or in the bullpen. So to me, when I look at this group, Emmett Sheehan could hold that role. I think Robleski could hold that role. But given how well Kershaw has pitched this season, to me, it just feels like he's earned that right as kind of like, again, I'm not even talking entirely on name value, although we'd all be foolish to act like name recognition doesn't matter a little bit when it comes to Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers. So where do you see Kershaw either fitting or not fitting on the postseason roster?
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you on this. I think, first of all, you have to have a conversation with him if he's not in the rotation, just because obviously the guy's been a starter his whole career. He has had some, postseason relief experience, but not a ton. But you'd have to talk to him and be like, hey, are you cool being the quote unquote, mop-up guy or the long man or the souped up Brent Honeywell, like you said? Or would you prefer to just be left off the roster? And I guess you kind of leave it up to him there. Knowing the competitor that Kershaw is, he's going to want to be on the roster. And I think he's pitched well enough to at least be in the mix. And I do think when we're talking about, a long man type, how they pitch doesn't even matter all that much. It's just how many innings they could eat most of the time. Like, he would be used for the quote unquote punt games, or if the Dodgers have a big lead and need someone to take down innings, that's what his role would be. Like, I get what Blake was saying about comparing, Bonda and Kershaw. Like, if it's a 1-run game in the 8th inning, yeah, I would rather have Bonda come in, but he can't give you the type of length that Kershaw can. So, it's like comparing apples and oranges, I guess. So with Kershaw, I would have him in there as the long man. That way, that would allow me to kind of use Sheehan more aggressively, as either in a leverage type spot or as a second long man, like we saw, last year that they had Honeywell and Landon Knack on the roster. And to, let's say your starter doesn't give you the length you're looking for, but it's still a close game that you still like, hey, we want to keep this where it is, then you could go to Sheehan for like 2 innings or something and then go to the rest of your relievers. Or if a game's kind of getting out of hand, then you could say, all right, Kersh, the next 4 or 5 innings are yours. Let's just finish this game out with you. So that's why I have him in there. The other guy for that type of role would probably be a guy like Robleski.
Yeah.
But he hasn't really pitched enough at the big league level, and who knows how much he's even gonna pitch at the big league level the rest of the year. So that's why I went with Kershaw.
Blake, when I dug in moving to Robleski and Bonda, I have Robleski ahead of Bonda. Like, I don't think there's really a metric that you can find that Bonda is better than Robleski other than quote unquote experience and kind of the name brand recognition. Maybe. I mean, Robleski has a 2.4 ERA over his last 33 innings with a 10.5 K per 9, a 1.6 walk per 9, a 2.19 FIP. He's 94th percentile in barrel rate, 85th percentile walk rate, 73rd percentile K rate, and also 87th percentile in ground ball rate, which is a huge number in the bullpen. So talk me through how you get to Bonda over Robleski, because if you just strip names away, the numbers on those two honestly aren't even that close.
I kind of have Bonda as like the reverse Brock Stewart, where Brock Stewart is just death on righties. Bonda has been elite versus lefties this year, and he made some sequencing changes with his pitches that they worked on in like the middle of July-ish, and since then he's just been really elite. He has like a 12-something K per 9. He hasn't been walking many guys, and like I said, the lefties, he's just been getting them out consistently. So I think as like a more of a leverage option than they'd want to use Robleski in, I think that's kind of the case with him there, and more of a lefty specialist. If there's 2 guys up in an inning who are both really good lefties, you bring him in and he's your guy who's going to get the lefties out.
And part of it probably depends on Scott and Trinan, right? Because if those are your like 8th and 9th inning guys, then Vesia can fill the role that you just described, or Jack Dreyer can fill the role that you just described, and you probably have a little more flexibility. But I think right now, Vesia is probably like maybe your 8th inning guy, or at least in the mix for 8th and 9th innings, in which case you probably need someone else to go get lefties in like the 6th inning if you find yourself in a bind. I know we're running at 32 minutes plus, but let's talk. There's a couple guys that we need to mention. I have Kirby Yates off my roster, which is insane from the beginning. But here's my pitch, Daniel, and then I'll come to you, who I think you have Kirby Yates just off your roster.
Yeah.
Well.
No, I had him. He's my last guy on as of now.
And Blake, where do you have Yates?
He's my last guy on right now.
Okay, so here's my Yates is off argument. Lower back pain on the injured list since August 1st, scheduled to face live hitters this week, then a potential rehab assignment. 4.3 ERA on the year, 1.3 whip. Obviously, this is a guy who's been incredibly dominant previous years. The question is whether or not we've hit the cliff. The issue is the splitter. The splitter used to be one of the best pitches in baseball. Last season, guys hit 114 against his splitter. This year, they're hitting 280 with a 520 slug against his splitter. Last year, his fastball was one of the best fastballs in baseball, a 113 batting average against. This year, it's up 100 points, 212 with a 485 slugging percentage. Guys are pulling the ball in the air against him at one of the worst rates in the league. So for me, the reason I'm on the outside, Daniel, is because not only do you have to project that Kirby Yates, who is older, is going to be healthy, but you also have to project that he's all of a sudden going to become good and much better than the guy we saw. So you have him last man in. We're not really, we're kind of splitting hairs to some degree. I think I have him 11th or 13th on my list behind Robleski and Bonda, who I have off. But what gives you maybe the slightest confidence that he's going to be the last guy in?
I think part of it is just his track record. Like, he's obviously had a great career. Even though he hasn't been great this year, he still does strike people out. And like you said, he's got to be better. Like, if he's the same guy he was pre-injury, he's probably not good enough. But I think there is a bit of projecting. Obviously, he earned a nice contract in the offseason. So I do think the pedigree means something. But like I said, he's the last guy on. So that could easily change at any time. And obviously, we got to see if he could get healthy and how he looks. But yeah, I mean, my first 2 guys off are Grderall and Kasperius. So it's like, I'm perfectly fine with either of those guys if the Yates thing isn't working out. Like, I'm definitely not married to having Kirby Yates on there.
Blake, do you have reason for optimism that if and when he does come back, we're going to see a better version?
Optimism, maybe like 50-50, kind of a coin toss thing. I put him on because it's August 12th, and I think the Dodgers tend to lead toward like veterans and guys who have done it before when putting these things together. His splitter has been a huge problem for him, and that's also caused the issues with the fastball because his splitter isn't dropping, and then the fastball and splitter are basically the same pitch, so he's not getting much success there. But even with that, he's been striking guys out. So if he can just get a splitter back on track and get it to drop more, I think he's going to be a lot better than what we've seen so far. And just knowing how the Dodgers value veterans and those guys, I just put him on over someone like Sheehan, who I already had my concerns about the injury stuff. Like, I don't think they'd want to use him multiple times in a series. You could make the case for Robleski, but then you're getting a lot of lefties in the bullpen. So for me, it was just kind of like, as of right now, Kirby Yates probably going to be that last guy on it for me, but I could see that easily falling off if he comes back and he isn't performing again. It's like Daniel said, he's the last guy on the list. So you kind of see what you get and make your changes in the next 2 months of the season.
Yeah, and the argument for him is the upside, right? Like, there's a world where Kirby Yates goes back to the guy he was just 6 to 12 months ago, where he was one of the 3 or 4 best relievers in all of Major League Baseball. So you don't really have that upside with many of these other guys on the list, Grderall, Kasparius, Robleski, Bonda type. So I could see the argument. 2 more names we need to mention. Roki Sasaki, right shoulder impingement on the IL since May 13th, set to begin a rehab assignment later this week with Oklahoma City. Could be back by the end of the month, early September, end of August type thing. Let's go rapid fire on these 2. Blake, he wasn't even good when he was healthy this year, unless the stuff is somehow dramatically better than the last time we saw. I just don't see how he goes from being a starter to a reliever and gets thrust into an October bullpen.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance they'd put him in the bullpen, kind of similar for my reasons with Sheehan. Like, they're not going to want to use him multiple times in a series, and he didn't earn a spot before when he was healthy. So, yeah, I just don't see it.
Daniel, anything you'd add there?
Yeah, I would just add, like, if the Dodgers had said, hey, we're bringing this guy back as a reliever, we know his two-pitch mix could play up as a reliever. We're going to test that out the last month of the season and see where we're at. Then I would maybe consider him. But the fact that they're bringing him back as a starter, like, you're not just going to shift him to the bullpen when October starts. So as long as he's, building up as a starter and that's the plan, I don't see any chance that he's, in the October bullpen.
All right, Blake, we waited 37 and a half minutes to talk about the main course. Your boy, Bobby Miller, 7 innings pitched in relief so far down in Oklahoma City. If you haven't been following, the last 6 innings, no hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts for Bobby Miller. Is he back, Blake?
Maybe in a bullpen role, we could see it happening. But yeah, I mean, we have to see it for a longer stretch before I'm putting him over a lot of these guys.
Yeah. I mean, like 10%, 5%? Where are we at? Give me a number, Blake.
15.
Oh, I love it. Daniel?
I'm closer to 5%, I'd say. Like, it's possible, but not likely. And we would have to see it at the big league level for it to even be a possibility.
Yeah, I think a lot would have to go wrong more than like him being right for this to happen. I would add a guy like Edgardo Enriquez, who we haven't talked about, Kyle Hurt, who is coming back from injury. Like, I think you can make a case those 2 guys might still be ahead of Bobby Miller in the pecking order, although it's good to see him pitching well. So there you have it. There's our list, the guys that we feel are locks, confident. So I'll throw my list back up, and we'll just Scott, Treinen, Vesia, Stewart are the locks that I have. I'm going to add Jack Dreyer to that list based on this conversation. I've got Kasparius in the confident category. I'm going to move Kopech to the confident category. I'll move Kasparius to the just in category because I think that's more of a representation. And then we're all over the map from there. I've got Sheehan, Grderall, and Kershaw in. Blake has got Bonda and Yates in. Daniel has got who do you have in? I forget who the end of your
Yates as well.
Bonda and Yates with Kershaw as well, but no Kasparius. So a little bit of back and forth there, but maybe Yates is in the just in category because you guys outvote me 2-1 on that one. So I would love to hear from people. Let us know in the comments below what you think, and maybe more importantly, as you map this out, how confident are you in this group? Like when you actually look at it on paper and imagine a bullpen of Tanner Scott, Blake Treinen, Alex Vesia, Brock Stewart, Jack Dreyer, Michael Kopech, Ben Kasparius, Emmett Sheehan, and then Kirby Yates. Like, do you feel good about that group? Because when I talk it out and I see those names, it gives me a little bit of confidence, a little bit of optimism that this group is going to be far better a month and a half from now than it is the group that we've seen over the last month or 2 months. So that is Blake Williams. That is Daniel Starkand. I am Jeff Spiegel. We appreciate y'all joining us for a long Dodger Heads. Not a short. It was going to be a short. Ended up being 40 minutes. Lots to talk about. We'll update this as we go. If you're watching this on Tuesday, Anthony and I will be live tonight after the Dodgers win, break their 2-game losing streak tonight against the Angels. We got tons of content coming at you this week. So if you're new, subscribe. Check out Dodger Blue 1958 on social media and, of course, DodgerBlue.com. That is Blake. That is Daniel. I am Jeff. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. As always, go Dodgers.